Near space. That's not a thing though, is it?
Neither is the Space Tourism Academy of Russia. In fact, this was all part of a wild plot for a brand new reality TV show promising to pull off the wildest TV hoaxes ever made, with the aim of sending the first group of British tourists into orbit around the Earth.
Did they manage to pull it off?
To these contestants, it felt completely real, even when they were blasted off into space.
But still, how do you fake G-force and weightlessness?
You could have literally told them that the gravity generators were being run by hamsters on running wheels, and they would have still believed it.
I know they're not looking for dumb people, but I think they kind of are a little bit.
There are journalists and photographers from all over the world there to meet them. They tell them that even the Queen is following their mission.
Wow.
After they get into orbit, the cadets are like, that was really smooth. It was almost like driving a car. And the pilots are like, that's a very big compliment, thank you. Welcome to The Compendium, an assembly of fascinating things. A weekly variety podcast that gives you just enough information to stand your ground at any social gathering.
We explore stories from the darker corners of true crime, the hidden gems of history, and the jaw-dropping deeds of extraordinary people. I'm
Kyle Risi, your ringmaster for this week's episode.
And I'm Adam Cox, the audience clap control manager for this week.
Is this like on an episode of Friends when the audience has to applause and there's a sign that comes up and you hold up a board?
No, mine's more about like the decibels of the clapping. So one, make sure like noise pollution, and two, it doesn't scare off the elephants.
Because they're really sensitive at this moment in time. There's a lot of mice running around.
Exactly.
Guys, if you are new to the show and you want to support us, then the absolute best way to support the show and enjoy exclusive perks is, of course, to join us over at Patreon. Signing up is free and you get next week's episode 7 days before anyone else.
And for as little as $3 a month, you'll become a fellow freak of the show.
That's just like £1 a week.
It's less than that.
Less than £1 a week.
Yeah, and you can unlock our entire back catalogue, including classic episodes that we always forget to remember, such as...
Oh God, what now? We've got... the Turpin family one is pretty damn good.
Oh, was that the French family?
No, that's Gone in the Night. That's the DuPont family.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
This is the massive child abuse case that kind of came to light, where those people were holding those kids captive for like years.
In cages, right?
Not necessarily in cages. I think they were just chaining them to their beds, and then one of the brave daughters decided to escape. That was a brilliant episode, actually. Maybe we should dig some of these episodes out and actually redo them again.
What, and better?
And better, yeah, with better sound effects, you know.
Maybe.
Pew pew! And of course, as a special thank you, all of our certified Freak tier members now receive an exclusive compendium keychain, which is, I just cannot believe how popular these things are with the amount of DMs that we get. I don't think you guys have even seen the keychain. If you pop over to Patreon, you can actually see an image of what the keychain looks like. It's pretty damn cool, but send us a DM with your address. We'll send one out to you in the post, but we do this in batches every quarter because we just have so many, and also we have to really deal with the tariffs, especially in America. So I have to really make sure I do it in bulk because I can get a little bit of a discount. But as always, when you get your keychain, we can always be dangling right near your
crotch.
Oh, you said that with a bit of gusto today. A bit of schmoozing in the eyes, you know.
What? Schmoozing in the eyes?
Yeah, you've got your real serious, kind of like that little serious thing that you got going on sometimes, you know.
Crotch.
Yeah.
I was trying to find another word for crotch, but I think I was getting confused with other words.
We did have a few freaks that sent in a couple translations, but I forgot to write them down this week. I'll get them out for next week. We can do a double whammy. Yeah.
Okay. And lastly, guys, please follow us on your favorite podcast app and leave us a review. Your support helps others find us and keeps these amazing stories coming.
Adam, that's enough of the housekeeping, because today, on the Compendium, we're diving into an assembly of gullibility, ambition, and a hunger to believe.
Yeah, I've got nothing.
Any clue? Like gullibility, ambition, a hunger to believe? What does that tell you? What do you think's going on?
That someone wants to believe in something because they've got ambition.
Yes.
You're like,
That's
well
right.
done. You're so good at this.
Today, Adam, I'm going to be telling you about an incredible event that happened in 2005, right here in the UK, when an ambitious new space program was launched with the aim of sending the first group of British tourists into orbit around the Earth. Have you heard this before?
No, never heard of this whatsoever.
It's a big part of British history and you've not heard about this?
No, it didn't happen. What is this?
So the so-called Space Tourism Academy of Russia, or STAR for short, was an elite training camp that was going to be used as the base to put a handful of ordinary people through weeks of grueling cosmonaut training, where at the end, 4 of them would be selected to be blasted off into near space, where they would spend the next 5 days circling the Earth, becoming the first British civilians in history to do so.
Near space. That's not actual space, though, is it?
Very observant, Mr. Cox, because it turns out that that's not even a thing. Neither is the Space Tourism Academy of Russia. In fact, there was no space program at all. This was all part of a wild plot for a brand new reality TV show called Space Cadets, promising to pull off one of the wildest TV hoaxes ever made.
Did they manage to pull it off? Did people believe they were going into near space?
Unbelievably, Adam, they pulled this off. To these contestants, Star felt completely real, even when they were blasted off into space. At first, they didn't even know what they were applying for. This, remember, is peak 2000s reality TV. The people applying for these shows were only interested in becoming famous. None of them had even thought about going into space up until this moment. It wasn't until the semi-finalists were selected that they found out that they would actually be getting this opportunity to go into space. And that's when they all went, yeah, I really, really want this.
So what did they think they were applying for then?
Well, they thought they were applying for a TV show called Thrill Seekers, and that's all the information that they heard. They knew that the show was an Endemol show. They are the people that are responsible for massive shows like
Big Brother.
Exactly. So when they signed up, the whole plot of the actual show was kept highly secretive. And 20 years later, the show has pretty much all but been forgotten. Hence why you've not even heard of this.
I mean, the fact it was 20 years ago, I can't believe 2005 was 20 years ago.
I know, it's sickening. Very recently, the show was actually posted on YouTube, which is how I spent most of my weekend when you were off gallivanting with your mum and dad. That's what I was doing.
Watching this.
And I tell you what, I do not regret it. One thing I did find interesting, though, is that we know today reality TV gets a real bad rap, especially because obviously over the years, it's been hammered for its lack of care towards its contestants, to the point that we've seen instances where people have had their entire lives ruined, right? Reputations completely destroyed. And sadly, the extreme is some have even taken their lives because of it.
Yeah, they didn't have the welfare that they do now because people were happy to let a woman use a bottle on herself.
Kinga. Ooh, she's never going to be allowed to forget that, right?
I mean, it's 20 years on since that probably happened.
And it's the only thing we can remember.
Yeah.
Damn. So when this television show aired, this was kind of sort of the Wild West of reality TV. But Space Cadets really emphasized contestant welfare at the time, which is incredible, way more than shows do today, which is ironic since the entire premise of the show was to fool people, body and soul, that they were going into space. And think about that for a second, right? You've been handpicked, you've been strapped into a space shuttle, blasted off into orbit, only to find out that you've never actually left the ground. Going to space is huge. Not many people get that opportunity. So you can imagine that if you don't pick the right people who can see the funny side of this, you could really break someone.
Yeah, someone could get quite angry and aggressive, I'm guessing.
They could go on a literal rampage.
Yeah.
They had to make sure that 100% these contestants could handle it. And in my opinion, they did a relatively good job considering the time that this show actually aired. And it largely worked. Some people, on reflection, were a little bit disappointed, but mostly everyone was fine. So Adam, today on the Compendium, I'm going to tell you about Space Cadets, the insane lengths the producers went to in order to pull this off. I'll tell you about how they selected their astronauts, how they convinced them that they had been flown to Russia when in fact they were just in Ipswich in Suffolk.
And that is disappointing.
I know.
Not that there's anything wrong with Ipswich before I get any flack.
I'll also tell you about their training, which was just serious enough to be believable, but silly enough for it to still be really entertaining television. And finally, I'll tell you about how they tricked 4 lucky finalists into believing they were actually in space.
I'm intrigued to how they pulled this off. I mean, like 20 years ago, maybe people were more naive. You didn't have the same kind of level of social media. But still, how do you fake going to Russia or even going into the space with the whole G-force and weightlessness thing? How do they do that?
Exactly. Because that's going to be the biggest giveaway, right? You're going to be in space. I'm not floating around. I'm just feet firmly on the ground in the shuttle.
Are they going to say, like, oh, we've got like a new device that basically means that we can offset gravity?
Well, we're going to get into all of that today. And honestly, the lengths that these producers went to is just insane. And honestly, it genuinely looks authentic, especially as a TV audience member who is in the know. That is the premise of the show, is that we know from the very beginning that this is all fake. There are very clear moments where you're like, nobody would ever fall for this. But when everything around you is screaming that this is real, it's really easy to overlook some of the discrepancies in what's around you. But Adam, let's get into it, shall we?
Let's do it.
So the whole aim of the show was simple. Convince 9 contestants that everything they were seeing and feeling was real. The show ran over 10 consecutive nights in December 2005. If at any point during the show, any of the contestants exposed the hoax before the final, the show was to be immediately pulled and Channel 4 would instead play old reruns of Jamie Oliver's school dinners. You literally see the tapes lined up in a break glass emergency box in the studio in the background.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just ready. Like, oh, are they going to foil us? Oh, do we need to rerun Jamie Oliver's school dinners?
So you're saying like mid-show, if someone goes, hang on a minute, this is fake, then they... Because is it live then?
It's not live.
But can you imagine, like, you say you're a viewer and you're watching this and you've got 8 episodes in, you think, oh, they're going to do it. And then they just pull it. Like, you kind of want to see the outcome though, right?
I think what they would have done is been like, okay, great, you fooled us. Bring everyone out. They have a studio there set up, ready to go with the host. But yeah, that was the reality. I think that from the very beginning, they knew that they would pretty much get through to the end. They would manage to convince them. So I think it's kind of more of a gimmick. So I'm going to tell you a bit about the show first. It was actually dreamt up by comedy writers Ben Cordell and, believe it or not, Adam, Richard Osmond.
Oh,
yes.
Really?
Yeah, that Richard Osmond, long before he became a best-selling crime novelist, he was doing this.
No way. I do feel like this was a time when they were really adventurous with TV. It wasn't just throwing people in a villa or whatever it is.
Exactly. They were still very much experimenting. Everything now is very much safe, isn't it?
Yeah.
So Ben Cordell said the idea came to him from one of his favorite films, Capricorn 1. Have you ever heard of that film before?
No.
So basically it's about a fake mission to land on Mars, which actually stars Jack Geller from Friends.
Really?
Yeah, I've never seen him in anything else, I don't think.
He's in like Ocean's 11.
Oh, of course he is. Yeah, he's one of the grifters, isn't he?
Yeah.
So Ben and Richard basically wanted to do something similar, except rather than faking a Mars landing, they initially wanted to actually fake a moon landing, but it quickly became apparent that this would be virtually impossible and way more expensive. So instead, they decided to settle on tricking contestants into believing they were orbiting Earth. And if you watch the show on YouTube, it is pure 2005 nostalgia. It aired at the height of kind of E4's glory days. So that's obviously Channel 4's edgier sibling channel, more catering for kind of the younger generation. It was back when Freeview was just taking off. So do you remember when the signal would often glitch when you had your Freeview box and there'd be those pixelated magenta and green lime squares all over the screen?
Yeah, I do remember that because Freeview was like, if you didn't have Sky, you only had like 4 or 5 channels. And then you got Freeview, which you pay a one-off fee, and then you get instant access to like 50.
I don't think you even pay anything. I think you just buy the box.
Oh, that's what I meant. Yeah, you buy the box, and then you get all these extra channels.
Exactly. It was before kind of TVs came with it baked in, basically.
Yeah.
So when you watch it on YouTube and you see that, that's basically what's going on. It's just a signal dropping in kind of 2005 era. So in order to pull this off, producers first had to find contestants. Some might say, dumb enough to fall for this. They basically placed an ad in the paper that read, "Are you missing out on life's great experiences? Is the British public missing out on you?" And the word "you" is all underlined. Reading this, you're not sure if it's an invite to join a cult, basically.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen these kind of ads in
No,
any
I've
paper.
never seen them. Like, I would totally apply for them if I'd seen them, because back then, this is kind of before the internet was really as big as it is today, right?
Yeah, how do you get people, how do you scout people out? And that was how
Yeah.
you did that, really. People had to audition or, yeah, it had to be put in a newspaper, I guess.
So it said that You needed to have the personality to win over a nation. You needed the determination to succeed and more balls than you can ever imagine. Remember, at this point, you have no idea what you're applying for. So, Adam, hearing that, are you applying? Do you have more balls than you've ever imagined?
I've got so many balls. I think you have to think a lot of yourself in a way because, like, oh yeah, I can win over a nation.
The thing is, though, when you're young, you just have that confidence, that naive confidence.
As if, like, yeah, why not? Let's do this.
I personally would have been disqualified straight away because famously I only have one ball. So once the applicants had applied, the producers started the process of whittling them down. The first people who were cut were anyone who might potentially see through the entire illusion. They basically cut anyone with a scientific or military background, and also obviously anyone with an interest in space. Part of the process included asking people if they could name more than 4 Star Trek or Star Wars characters.
Because that would be a signal?
Yeah.
Really?
I think it's because then you probably have an understanding of what it's like to potentially be in space. They're just basically looking for anyone who has an awareness of space but doesn't really have a clue.
I see. Okay.
If they've showed any kind of interest in that in any way, immediately eliminated.
They'll be like, that's not what happened on Star Trek.
Yeah, exactly. Once that was done, they moved on to the psychological profiling rounds. What do you think they're looking for at this point?
Well, you mentioned at the beginning that they have to be gullible. So I'm guessing people that really don't question things.
So gullibility was definitely a factor. A lot of viewers actually thought that they were looking for people with low intelligence, but actually they wanted people who were intelligent, but also both creative and curious. But the biggest thing that they were looking for was susceptible people, likely to basically believe a hoax. The types who basically enjoyed practical jokes, who were willing to go along with the group, or someone who would believe something if it was presented with authority.
I see. And also, you mentioned about going along with the group. So they're not
Yes.
going to be someone that's going to challenge it. They will try and keep the peace or keep what the common consensus is.
Exactly. So in that situation, I think you'd probably be quite qualified because you're too much of a people pleaser. You'd
Shut
just
up.
be like, you'd be like,
I'm not pleasing you right now.
that's true. Now, I think obviously an element of this was also finding people who would be entertaining on screen. After all, they are making a TV show at the end of the day. But that's not to say idiots didn't slip through the net. You could be creative and susceptible, but you could also be dumb as shit. One of the very first tests that they did was the dot test, where candidates were presented with a series of random dots on a piece of card. They were told that some of them contained faces. In reality, none of them did.
So dots on a card,
Yes.
like polka dots.
Polka dots on a card, different colors. So they were showing these cards. Some said that they saw nothing at all, immediately eliminated.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people did see something. People saw Boy George's face. A woman said she saw a woman's reproductive system.
Okay.
Another guy thought he saw a hot dog with fries. But my absolute favorite is one woman said, I see a skull on a lampshade wearing a cowboy hat. So it's
Okay, I
very
feel like
specific.
she's just trying to think up an answer.
I think so. That's the thing, though, because at the same time, they have no idea what the premise of the show is. So it's difficult to know what parts of your personality to kind of like emphasize or kind of what crazy shit to say because you're maybe trying to impress them. So a lot of it is bullshit.
I was going to say, like, did that woman actually generally believe that? Or it just sounds sus? You probably could have got away with, I can see Jesus, and then that would have worked.
Yeah, probably. So next, the contestants had to do the eyeball test, where they were presented with a fishbowl filled with rubber eyeballs and asked to guess how many they thought were inside of it.
Okay.
Once they had their guesses, they were then presented with a whiteboard to write down their own answer. But on the whiteboard were also the supposed guesses of the other contestants, but the other people's guesses were really inflated in terms of numbers. So, for example, you'd look in the fishbowl, you'd estimate maybe there's maybe 100 eyeballs in there. They would then show you the whiteboard, and then the other guesses would be like 2,143 or whatever.
Yeah, I imagine how that would, I think I would probably fall for that.
Exactly. This is the kind of going along with the group aspect, right? So at that point, you could decide to either change your answer before writing it down, or you could stick with it. Some people looked at the guesses on the whiteboard, then looked back at the fishbowl, and they were like, there's no way there's 2,143 eyeballs in that bowl. And so they would write down their original guess, immediately eliminated.
Right, okay.
The ones who changed their guess were the ones who moved on to the next round. They were exactly who the producers were looking for. In spite of what their senses were telling them, were willing to disregard that and go along with the crowd, essentially. But there were some absolute spectacular failures in this process as well. One woman, when asked how many eyeballs were in the bowl, she simply responded, a bowl of rubber eyeballs.
That's not a number.
She was out. Another woman, when showed the fishbowl, immediately tries to grab one, but the fish tank has a very obvious lid on it, so her hand kind of just slams into the lid and you hear like a clonk. The instructor was like, you don't need to touch the eyeballs. But she tries again, so she lifts the lid up, she puts her hand in, and the instructor's like, you do not need to touch the eyeballs. So it takes her kind of forever to register what he's actually saying. She's out.
I don't know. She seems dumb enough. Like she could go along. I know they're not looking for dumb people, but I think they kind of are a little bit.
Like, what was she anticipating? Like, yes, very good, you pass. Well done, you're going straight to space. Like, seriously. Some of these people are the stupidest people in the world. So the next test was to check if any of the contestants were claustrophobic. Because remember, if successful, you were going to be living in a very confined space on what they believed was a space shuttle. And a lot of people say they aren't claustrophobic, but until you're in that situation, you don't actually know. And the last thing that they want is for you to be in space and for a producer to kind of have to step out one of the side panels and rescue a contestant who's freaking out, right? Like, it will destroy the entire illusion for everyone.
Yeah.
The producers had to test for both restrictive and confinement claustrophobia. For the restrictive test, they had contestants wear a sleeping bag and a pair of blackout goggles, and basically they just had to lie on the floor for 20 minutes. And the idea was to kind of simulate the cramped, hot conditions of the physical spacesuit that they were wearing.
I see.
Everyone pretty much passes this test, so most went through. The next test, though, was the confinement claustrophobia test. It was important that this test be completely unexpected and that the contestants don't think that it's an actual test. So to do this, they basically trapped them in a real lift on the way to kind of lunch or whatever.
And they're all like crammed in the lift, I guess?
Yes, that's right. Like in small groups, like 10 people at a time or whatever. I'm not sure if any of them eventually recognized that this was a test when they were in there. I don't think so, because everything up until this point had been kind of testing their abilities. This didn't seem to be like an ability test. They were just essentially just stuck in a lift.
Mm-hmm.
The psychologists were watching for anyone who seemed to become agitated. If they did, then they were immediately eliminated. Inside the lift with the contestants were 3 actors. They are essentially integral to the entire hoax, with one of them making it actually into the final shuttle. They were there basically to keep the show moving, to model kind of the behavior of the producers. And if any of the contestants asked any questions or voiced any doubts, they would subtly steer them back on track. But also the most important thing is that no one knows at this point that these people are actors. They all think that they're proper contestants.
They're like moles, I guess.
Exactly. They are essentially moles. So in the lift, you kind of see them making kind of eyes to the camera, giving them knowing looks. And so they start messing around, making other contestants inside the lift to kind of feel uncomfortable on instruction of the actual producers. And basically, they're just there to help test their reactions.
Mm-hmm.
And most contestants are completely fine, but some start obviously sweating, they're shifting, they're clearly uneasy. If they did any of those things, completely eliminated. So the next test, the contestants were given blackout goggles where they were asked to dance in a group with no music. So you've got the situation where you've got these people just flailing around, many of them doing kind of these weird, even sexual dances. I had no idea how sexual dancing in the early 2000s actually was. There's lots of kind of like body rolling and grinding, especially the boys. What is that about?
I don't remember doing that.
You will definitely recognize this as a period of time when the dancing was just too suggestive and too sexual.
And what do people do now?
I don't know, just not that.
I think they probably do. I think it's still pretty sexual.
Too much. It was just creepy. It
too
just
much MTV.
felt slimy. Yeah. So at this point, what producers are looking for is anyone who's willing to play along and kind of be a good sport about it. They were measuring basically embarrassment levels. And to really amplify this, what they did is one by one, they'd instruct individuals to remove their goggles and then stand aside, leaving the others just dancing on their own. Eventually, when there's just one person left, they'd ask them to remove their goggles. And the idea was to see which contestants just laughed it off or which ones were left feeling mortified. And a lot of them visibly crumbled with embarrassment. So they were eliminated.
It's like, your dancing is terrible.
Yeah,
Who are you trying to hump?
You should just see some of the reactions when they take off the goggles. Some of them were visibly mortified.
And did they know that people were looking at them then? I guess they didn't.
They did when they took their goggles off because everyone was standing around kind of
I
like
see.
watching them. So it is nice that they were doing this because they wanted to see if people could see the joke within this. It's probably for insurance purposes. They didn't really want contestants who would eventually go on a full rampage at the final. Do you know what I mean? Like start guerrilla attacking people.
Like I was lied to and all this sort of stuff. And
Exactly.
sue them, yeah.
And obviously, while all these tests were going on, the show was explaining kind of the assessments. We at home obviously know that this is a hoax. The contestants themselves have no idea what the actual show is actually about.
What kind of contract did they have to sign before they go into this? Because I imagine they would have had to sign something.
Probably just one line. I sign away all my rights. You can do whatever you want to me.
It must have been worded in a way that they didn't even read, maybe.
Yeah, possibly. But the point is they didn't know what the show was about. And I think that's what makes this really interesting because, like I said earlier, these people obviously are applying for a TV show. They want to make a good impression. Naturally, you want to emphasize the aspects of your personality that you think producers are searching for. But in this case, they have no idea. Even the crew didn't know what the premise of the show was. And to really throw people off, all these auditions were carried out under the guise that everyone is applying for different fake TV shows that they had kind of like posted ads for. So if someone asked like, oh, what are you auditioning for? Someone might be like, oh, come fool around my boyfriend or, oh, Big Brother 6 or whatever. So they don't know what to emphasize. They don't know what the producers are looking for.
Interesting.
The entire budget for the show, $5 million, Adam. Relative to the time, that is huge. Remember, that's 2005 money.
Yeah.
And honestly, they really do pull out all the stops to make this hoax work. But like I said at the very beginning, for all the scrutiny that reality TV shows have gotten for the lack of care towards contestants, they really put emphasis on it here. They really, really did not want to humiliate anyone. So in a way, they're kind of like the good guys of peak reality TV.
I think it's a little bit different though, because here they are deliberately misleading these contestants, and that is the purpose of the show. So they probably are taking extra care. If you go on to Big Brother at the time or some of these other shows, I guess as you're put into all different sort of circumstances, you kind of know you're going to be filmed 24/7. You're kind of provoked to act this way or that way. But at the end of the day, that's you making that choice to act that way.
True, I guess so. But at the same time, they're also making a TV show. And I guess for Big Brother, as an example, they're looking to create situations that are going to be entertaining to an audience.
And conflict. Yeah.
Exactly. And the final edit is to make it as entertaining as possible. But I guess the premise of this show is, can we pull off this hoax? They don't really have an interest in humiliating anyone. So they're not really going to go off and like cut something in order to make someone look really, really bad. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I feel like it's a slightly different motivation with this show.
Yeah, because of the format, I guess.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever think about switching insurance companies to see if you could save some cash? Progressive makes it easy. Just drop in some details about yourself and see if you're eligible to save money when you bundle your home and auto policies. The process only takes minutes, and it could mean hundreds more in your pocket. Visit Progressive.com after this episode to see if you could save. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Potential savings will vary. Not available in all states.
Hormone Harmony is a game changer for women who feel off, physically and mentally. Created by an award-winning German nutrition scientist, it blends 12 evidence-based adaptogens into one capsule. No fillers, no junk, just science-backed support for clarity, comfort, energy, and confidence. With 50,000-plus glowing reviews, it's helped millions feel like themselves again. Try it now with 15% off your first order using code HARMONY15 at happymammoth.com.
This podcast is supported by the original organic bedding and bath brand, Koyuchi.
As soon as I found out we were going to have a baby, I wanted to make sure that whatever we slept on or came into contact with was safe from toxins or anything harmful. So I bought Koyuchi sheets and towels. Koyuchi was exactly what we needed. Not only are they certified organic to the highest standards, they're also just amazing. We have the Koyuchi Organic Crinkled Percale Sheets. They're 100% organic cotton and woven to be naturally cooling, super soft, and breathable. And I honestly just sleep better with them. Of course, now our baby registry has a lot of Koyuchi on it too. Crib sheets, blankets, and a snuggle sack. All the best for him or her. Everything we have from Koyuchi feels good, looks good, and is safe for our whole family.
Get 15% off when you visit Koyuchi.com. That's Koyuchi.com to get 15% off. Koyuchi.com.
But one of the things that they did do was have each of the contestants write down a friend or a relative that they just trusted completely. What they didn't know was that if they qualified for the semifinals, the producers would then visit that person and they would be the one to make the final decision on whether or not that contestant proceeded to the final selection.
Interesting.
Yeah. So they would visit them, they would explain everything, they'll tell them obviously that this is all fake, and then ask, should this person be included? Will they be able to cope if this is all revealed as a hoax?
Because I reckon some people are like, oh, they'll find this hilarious, they'll love it, and other people...
Like, don't do that to them.
Or they're like, actually, I want to get my own back. You
and
stole my boyfriend.
Yeah, same thing applies. And it's your mum. So Next was the set, which was just insane, Adam. Like I said, they had a ton of money to throw at this. And remember, this is 2005 money. But it wasn't infinite, so they couldn't actually afford a real Russian space facility, right? So instead, they used a US Air Force base in Brentwater Park in Ipswich, which is Suffolk. It had previously been used by the USA between 1951 and 1993, but by 2005, it was completely abandoned. But it still had barracks and a huge amount of space, basically just to get everything set up. The first thing they did was replace every single light switch and power socket with Russian-style outlets.
Makes sense. I mean, I don't know what kind of outlet it is, but you want to make sure it looks like it's abroad, right?
Anything that they could find with English written on it was replaced with Russian. At one point, they even found a brass tap on the side of a wall with the word off embossed on it. They literally just had to file that down.
I love how much detail they put into this.
Yeah, they thought about everything. They hired a bunch of people to painstakingly scour every single inch of the facility for any British litter that might kind of give away that they weren't actually in England. I'm talking like crisp packets, Coke cans, fag packets, cigarette butts, anything. Anything they could find that would just be recognizable as English stuff. But the thing is, though, if I was told I was in Russia and I saw a Walker's crisp packet, I would be like, oh, look, they have Walker's crisps here. It genuinely would not cross my mind that this was a hoax.
So you'd have been good for the show then.
But do you understand what I mean? Because you go to different countries, you go, oh, look, they've got Twix here.
Yeah, I guess so. But then if you look on the back and you just see English print and no Russian, you'd go, that seems a bit sus. And if something else, maybe you'd conned on to something else that didn't make sense, but you didn't think too much of it. But then you see the crisp packet.
So like chaining.
Yeah. So I guess you don't want any kind of seed of doubt at this point.
I guess so, yeah. So in isolation, maybe not. But if there's other things, then yeah, I get it. But basically, after they pick up all the trash, they then go around deliberately scattering Russian rubbish everywhere. So if they did find anything, it would be Russian.
That's so clever.
It is so smart.
I would never think to do that. But yeah, it makes sense.
So next, the producers, they visit an aircraft dismantling yard in Chelmsford in Essex. This place basically supplies the film industry with all sorts of props. It's where actually a lot of the props for the James Bond films came from, actually. When they're there, they pick out a bunch of old control panels, jet parts, missiles. They even found an old ejector seat. They take off all the English text and replace it with Russian. They then source a bunch of furniture that you'd expect to find in an old military base, like posters, mugs, flags, you name it. No expense is spared. Then they send a team to fly out to Russia to do a grocery shop. They had to, of course, stock up the base with Russian products, soft drinks, toiletries, bin bags, soaps, anything that they would need throughout the training process. They even brought Russian cigarettes for the crew members who smoked, so the only fag butts that would be lying around would be Russian fag butts.
Makes sense.
Next, they visited Russian outdoor markets where they managed to find a ton of military memorabilia, including badges and helmets. They found a few Russian spacesuits, and once they had all of this, they just flew it all back to Ipswich. They even hired a squad of Russian-speaking actors to all play soldiers and guards on the actual military base. So while you're in a lecture, throughout the entire base, there's just like tons of Russian soldiers with dogs and uniforms speaking Russian, and they're just going about doing their business just to blend into the background.
What a fun acting job.
It's like a proper Truman Show, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're not in the scene, but you're in the distance, but you still play a part. Yeah, it's weird. But of course, the whole hoax hinged on one thing. They needed a space shuttle, and it needed to be believable. So what they did is they assembled a team of Hollywood set builders and sound engineers to construct a shuttle simulator in a warehouse. When it was finished, they installed a massive wraparound screen that kind of projected moving footage of the Earth. This way, if you looked out the windows of the simulator, it would genuinely seem like you were in orbit.
I'm trying to picture how realistic that was. You look back at technology or movies from 20 years ago, and at the time you used to think, oh, amazing special effects.
Yeah.
But now you watch it and you're like, it looks like a cartoon.
It does look really impressive. No one questions it.
So how do they get into this spaceship then? They couldn't have walked up outside into a spaceship.
I'm going to explain all that in a minute.
Okay.
So while all this was going on, the participants who were left were sent on 10 days of physical training in Cumbria, where they did abseiling, hiking. At one point, they had to jump off a bridge into kind of frigid water. Remember, this is December. Mm-hmm. And the aim was to kind of see if they were willing to conquer their fears. 3 of the participants, like I said, they were actors disguised as contestants. They were guaranteed to make it through to Russia. One of them was a guy called Charlie Skelton, and his cover story is that he is a poet.
Okay.
And I don't know if they really thought this through, but when they're on the train going to Cumbria, They're all kind of getting to know each other. One of the real contestants, and I think his name is Billy, he asks him if he can recite a poem right there on the spot.
One role as an actor, come on, know your backstory.
And Charlie is like, oh, fuck. And then amazingly, on the spot, he goes, I saw a pebble on the beach. It reminded me of you. Or was it the dog behind, scratching its shit into the cold sand?
That's it?
That is it. And then he just slowly turns his head away and the conversation was over. And Billy is like, what the fuck?
It's like, this guy is Shakespeare.
At this point, what's left is just basically the most suggestible people alive. But also, they're all reality TV wannabes. So they're also really intense, really big personalities. This is also day one of training, by the way. And Charlie is like, I don't think I can live with these people much longer.
Really?
It's day one, because they're just so intense.
Yeah.
Finally, after a few weeks, all the psychological and kind of physical tests are done. And the producers handpick their semi-finalists who are going to become Space Cadets. They are, really briefly, a guy called Andrew Carter. He's 19. He's a student from London. You've got Sarah Jane Cass. She's 19, a media student from Kent. You got Cheryl Deary, 23, a receptionist from Glasgow. Paul French, he's one of my favourites, 26. He's a plasterer from Bristol. You've got Kerry Hassett, 25, a college administrator from Birmingham. Billy Jackson, 25, a recruitment consultant from Kent. You've got Ryan McBride, 28. He's an electrician. Louise Nesbitt, 23. She's a teacher. They do an interview with her at the very end of this, 18 years later, to find out how this has affected her. She's one of the exceptions. It has kind of affected her. She's a little bit gutted. And then you've got Astrid Roberts, 19, and she is a call center worker. And remember, alongside them are three planted actors, Charlie Skelton, Rainey Doe, and Steve Hester. And like I said, their entire job is to just reinforce the illusion and deflect any suspicion wherever doubts kind of arise. So in total, there are 12 Space Cadets, only 4 of which, including one actor, would eventually be selected to go into orbit.
I guess it's maybe easier to pull off that part of it with less people.
Yeah, but also for realism effect, right? You don't get a team of 20 people going up into space.
That's also true. I've also noticed that they're all pretty much, I think, in their 20s.
Yeah, that's the thing though. Do you remember that stage when we were watching X Factor, when we realized, God, we would be of the age where we would be in the mature category?
The over 25s.
Yeah.
That was I think I even did a Facebook update status on that at that point when I used to do that, thinking, oh my God, I'm so old. Over the hill.
God.
To be 25 again.
So basically, they gather all the Space Cadets at Biggin Hill Airfield in London in the middle of the night, dead of winter. And this is where they're actually going to meet the show's host for the very first time. And it is none other than Johnny Vaughan.
Oh, okay.
Do you remember him?
I do, yeah.
He was very often doing shows with, is it Sarah Cox?
Denise Van Outen.
Denise Van Outen.
So they did Big Breakfast together.
That's it.
And they've done other shows, I think, since. He's on the radio, I think, still now.
But I don't think he does television anymore. This is one of the shows that caused him to quit. He was like, yeah, I'm done.
Really?
Yeah.
Because of, okay, tell me more.
It's not purely because of the show. It's just because he could kind of sense where television was heading. Even in 2005, it was obvious reality TV was kind of tipping heavily towards spectacle over people. And it's just not something that he really kind of liked. So they're all out on the tarmac. Johnny kind of leans in, he lowers his voice, and then he reveals that they weren't just contestants on some late night Channel 4 experiment. Instead, they had all been chosen to compete to become one of the very first UK space tourists. And for the cadets, this is basically the very first time that this is spelled out to them. And they all go absolutely ballistic. They're screaming, they're hugging, their tears streaming down, they're bouncing on the spot. And then Johnny tells them that right now, they'd all be flying off to Russia, where they would be spending the next 3 weeks in training. And then 4 of them would be chosen for a 5-day space mission. And I don't know how I'd feel about that. It's a great prospect to be going to space and being selected, but you're leaving right now.
Do they get an opportunity to back out, I guess, at this point?
Yes, so he goes through and hey, Billy, do you want to go to space? And he's like, hell yeah, but even still, I want to speak to my mum and dad about it. Remember, only 15 years earlier was the Challenger space shuttle disaster, right?
Yeah, I guess they don't have a lot of time. They have to make a split decision.
I don't know if I would. I would want to do it. And I'd probably go, yes, I'll do it. And I'll think about the logistics later on.
Yeah.
But then again, like I said, they all get so swept up in this, they just don't even notice.
Yeah, I guess so. It sounds like you've been chosen and there's a chance, right? So you probably think, well, I'll try my luck, see how far I get.
But at this point, they're all thrilled. Charlie Skelton, one of the actors, was interviewed by The Guardian like 18 years after this. And he said that the contestants were utterly hyper and literally in a state of extraordinary elation. That's how he put it. He says that they all thought in that moment that their lives were all going to change forever. He said that someone was saying, I'm going to be friends with Tom Cruise.
I mean, I don't know the link. How did he? Bit of a stretch.
Maybe 2005, he was like, I don't know, a big thing. I don't know. He does say that he felt really bad for them because obviously he knows this is all not real. He said that it was like taking a bunch of kids to meet Santa only to reveal that he didn't actually exist.
Wow.
Which, why would you do that anyway? That's really cruel.
That is really cool.
So the Space Cadets, they are told that they are flying to Krimps in Russia right now. They all board this private jet. It takes off. In reality, what's happening is they're being flown 100 miles west to Lydd in Kent, which is another airfield.
Okay, so they go there first. I thought they're going to Suffolk.
Once they get to Lydd, they're then going to get a helicopter ride to Suffolk.
Right, so how do they manage to think that they've gone to Russia? I mean, once you're in the air, you don't really know. You kind of look out and you go, oh, okay, we've left the UK. Then you next see some land. You think that's wherever, right? Yeah, it's twisting and turning in the sky. But then to get a helicopter and not recognize the English countryside.
First of all, this is all done in the middle of the night, right?
Ah, okay.
They also make sure to take everyone's watches away. So I'm not sure how they explain that one. But then also in the sky, they just make sure that the plane carefully and very slowly, it just looped back and forth over the North Sea for 4 hours.
That must have been the most boring flight for the pilots. But then to do that, because back then you wouldn't have had smartphones.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess they would have had to take them off them because usually you go to another country, it tells you.
To be fair, I didn't see
cards.
anyone with their mobile phone.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they had to take their watches and phones, I guess.
That's it. And while nobody suspected a thing, there was some disbelief that could have potentially been interpreted as maybe like, oh, this isn't real. Because one girl wonders with her mate whether or not this might all be fake. Because the way she puts it is like, this is just too good to be true. But I put it down to that. Like, it's a disbelief thing rather than this isn't happening or this is fake. It's more like, this is too good to be true.
But wouldn't the producers like clocked onto that and go, get rid of her?
But other than that, they were also giddy that nobody seriously questioned what was happening. They were literally on a plane. So why would there be any doubts, right? You don't expect there to be another deception underneath that.
Yeah.
Eventually they land in Lydd. Everyone thinks that they're in Volgograd in Russia. Nobody questions what the time is there or why none of them would have any jet lag or anything.
I guess there's only 4 hours though. And if it's at night time.
But let's say you took off at, let's say, midnight. It'd be like 4 a.m. Plus it'll be 4 hours into the future. So it surely would be almost daytime. But to them, it's not.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, the daylight would have shifted or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. But none of them question it.
I don't know. You're probably just, when you go on holiday anyway, it's all exciting. And so therefore, maybe you don't think about that. You still have that adrenaline going.
So from there, they're all transferred by helicopter to the RAF base in Suffolk, now branded obviously Star. On board, they're greeted by a very intimidating Russian soldier who calls out all the names one by one and then orders them onto a waiting bus outside. Ryan is the last space cadet left. He isn't on the list. So the soldier demands his passport with his hand stretched out. Ryan misunderstands this and goes to shake his hand, and the soldier is not amused. Ryan is forced to obviously then wait while they do some checks with his comrades. There's a ton of aggressive Russian back and forth before the soldier comes back in and just orders him off the helicopter and into the bus. So it seems very genuine, right? You've got this really intimidating Russian soldier who's come on, starts barking orders at you. Why would you not believe it?
I guess this is staged, obviously. And so this perhaps helps them to believe where they are. One, because obviously they're Russian. And two, if someone's barking orders or it's kind of a tense situation and you probably just play along with it or do whatever.
So from there, they're all driven through various checkpoints and gates, complete with guards holding leashed Rottweilers. The base is flooded with spotlights, there's fog. It all looks really, really authentic. Eventually, they reach the barracks where they'll be staying. And none of them question that they aren't in Russia. It's pretty amazing that they managed to pull this off up to this point.
Yeah, I'd love to see what this place looked like.
Again, watch the show. Even if you just skim through it on YouTube, it's pretty incredible. Most of the setup is done in episode 1. On their first proper day, they start with a lecture by their mission commander. This is a guy called James Campbell. He's an actor. Producers have him really lean into kind of the stereotype of this really posh, boring British commander, complete with a fake handlebar moustache. They also have him speak at a painfully slow. His lectures are just mind-numbingly boring. And so to kick off, the cadets are introduced to the mission where they have to rehearse STAR's motto, which, when translated from Russian, is, "It's not rocket science." But none of them know this.
Right, okay.
Then they have to kind of sit through a lesson with him where they have to learn all the different roles of the control mission specialists. Each one comes with its own acronym. For example, they have to learn about the role of the Navigation Aeronautics Control and Specialist, whose acronym is NACAS, which is 90 slang for testicles.
Yeah.
None of them twig. And it's because everything has been delivered in this really serious tone, in this very serious looking environment, that they've all just been swept up in it all, to the point that none of them see any of this piss taking. And there's a lot of piss taking in this. Even Charlie Skelton, who knows this is all fake, he forgets that he's an actor. At one point, he raises his hand and asks a genuine question about Planet X or whatever. And the commander doesn't actually know how to answer the question. So for a minute, he stumbles and he's like, "That's not in the script."
Yeah.
But he saves it at the last minute without anyone noticing. They do also have a diary room in the barracks as well, where the cadets can go and share their thoughts, just like on Big Brother. And Ryan says, he didn't anticipate how serious the lectures were going to be, but this was the kick up the arse they all needed to take this seriously.
Yeah, I guess so. Before it's been kind of fun and games, isn't it really? Are they learning about real stuff?
No, 80% of what they've been taught is real, but 20% is just bullshit and piss-taking. One of the biggest hurdles, of course, of pulling this whole thing off was the matter of zero gravity in space, which, as you might imagine, isn't something that you can easily fake in a warehouse outside of Ipswich. So what do you think the solution was?
I think they come up with some lame excuse to go, "Oh, we've got this futuristic or Russian technology that kind of..."
Very, very good. Yes, the producers had deliberately selected very suggestible people. So they hold this entire lecture hosted by a world-class aerospace genius, a guy called Brick Price. In reality, he is a Hollywood set designer. Brick presents blueprints, charts, showing kind of the shuttle system. He sounds very authoritative, and he tells them that they aren't actually going into outer space. They're actually going into near space, where he says that the gravity is about 30% less that of Earth. On top of that, the shuttle's gravity generators on board would then balance out the missing kind of gravity by up to 90%. So they might feel slightly lighter, but otherwise they wouldn't really notice. And they're going to be suggestible people, right? So they're going to be up in space and go you know what?
I do feel lighter.
I can feel a little bit.
I feel lightheaded.
They completely buy it. You just see them all just scrambling, taking notes. They're looking really serious and "Oh yeah, this is serious stuff. We've got to take notes, man." Charlie says in the diary room, you could have literally told them that the gravity generators were being run by hamsters on running wheels and they would have still believed it.
I mean, at this point, if everything has felt real and also sci-fi stuff, you perhaps would have gone, "Oh yeah, maybe this is true now. Maybe it is possible."
Yeah. There is a close call when Brick Price nearly exposes the whole thing. He's in the middle of explaining how the artificial gravity system was inspired by the 2001 A Space Odyssey movie. Mm-hmm. He casually drops in that the film was shot in Hollywood. Another lecturer jumps in and goes, "Actually, no, it was filmed in the United Kingdom." And Brick pauses for a second and says, "That's right, most of the film was filmed here, wasn't it?"
Oh, right.
So again, he doesn't say that they're not in Russia, but he's insinuating that they are by it was filmed here.
Oh, and they don't pick up on that.
They don't. Not a single cadet knows. They're just taking notes.
Yeah.
Oh, 2 hours later, they're going through their notes and going, "Oh, hang on a minute."
That's interesting. It's amazing how far through this they're able to take this stunt, because if one of the actors or whoever is in this messes up on day 1 or day 2, that could have blown this whole thing open. There wouldn't have been a show.
Well, I mean, we need to have that close call with Charlie Skelton when he asks a genuine question that James Campbell cannot answer.
Yeah.
But
this is a blatant shit, we've let it slip where we are.
So after the lectures, they're all treated to a surprise party where the aim is to get to know some of the people that they'll be joining them on the mission, right? So this includes obviously the commanders and the pilots. Because there's going to be alcohol involved, producers don't want to risk anyone stumbling or saying anything they basically shouldn't. So they tell them that, and they kind of dress it up as this is just about getting to know each other. Any talk of the mission is completely banned. This is just about relaxing.
Someone going to come in there and go like, hey, you're talking about the mission. Stop it.
Well, that goes out the window immediately as soon as the party starts. They're all drunk. The girls start flirting with the pilots. Everyone's talking about the mission. At one point, Paul says to the commander, that's James Campbell, don't take this the wrong way, but you look like a glorified travel agent. And James is like, oh, shit.
Is he?
He's just an actor. He might be.
Yeah.
I think at one point he goes, yeah, I could be. In another life, I could be.
So what you should always do, I guess you always say yes, don't you, with this improv?
Yes. But the production team does run into a bit of a problem later that night because Charlie Skelton accidentally kicks Steve. He's another one of the actors. He kicks him and he flicks his toenail off. There's blood everywhere at him.
Why doesn't you flicked his toenail
I think it's just a freak accident.
Ew.
Basically, this means that Steve can't do any of the physical training. It's tricky for the producers because if he can't do any of the physical training, then they can't justify him potentially being selected as part of the 4 to go up into the space shuttle later on without it looking really suspicious or sus. So basically, he is a dead weight just hanging around. But conveniently, by night 4, Steve starts being violently sick with gastro. So I'm not sure if this was an excuse. They got him to fake having gastro so they could get rid of him, or whether or not this was genuine. I think it was genuine because he's really anxious about having to sleep on the top bunk. And you definitely don't want to be the person sleeping on the bottom bunk with someone with the gastro. So in the middle of the night, a producer comes in. They obviously explain the situation. They said that they need to move him to protect the other kind of cadets because gastro can be contagious. And they said they're going to take him for treatment so he's away from the others. A day later, they make the excuse that because he had missed so much training, they just decided that he should probably go home.
Okay.
So part of me makes me think that this was planned.
But you would have thought they would have just revealed that to the audience, right? If they were going to like try and set this up properly. So why would they go to the lengths to say that he had gastro?
Yeah, I don't know. What they tell the audience is that he's gone home because of the gastro. They do say that he's missed loads of training, but they say that the thing that made them move him was the gastro.
Interesting.
To me, it just seemed like they needed an excuse to get rid of him because they couldn't justify him being selected as one of the 4.
Yeah.
So basically right now, there are just 2 actors left. That's Charlie and Rainey. The next day, the lecture is all about space history, where they talk about the very first dog in space named Lakia. She basically tragically dies in an accident and she kind of burns up as it's coming back into orbit. This part of the story is very true. It's also very, very sad. A few of the cadets are crying as they're listening to this. The lecturer then tells them that Lakia's story inspired a really famous song in Russia in her honor and was called A Million Miles from Home. So everyone is still deeply upset and he decides to play the song. Adam, it's a full-on 90s techno track. And so throughout the song, everyone is really down in the dumps. Some of the girls are crying. They can't get past the fact that this really upbeat song has been playing. Charlie cannot contain himself. You just seem like just trying to struggle to stop himself from laughing.
I mean, it almost sounds a bit insensitive, but then I guess it's just to try and see if people believe this, right?
It's true.
Really?
Yeah, the
Oh.
song exists and it was inspired by this dog, but it just so happens to be a techno 90s track.
I thought the show made this up. That's hilarious.
They're then told that Russia's first cosmonaut to successfully orbit and return to Earth was a monkey called Minsky, and that to honor the monkey, they had named the city of Minsk after her.
That's a lie, right?
That's not true at all. Yeah, that's part of the bullshit. They then wheel out a glass cabinet with Minsky's stuffed body wearing a spacesuit, and they're all told that they need to pay their respects to it every single day. He says, in Russia, we do not take these things lightly. And he checks every day that they have a lecture with him. He's like, has everyone paid their respects to Minsky? And there's this like monkey in this glass cabinet with this like staunch face going, ah. It's just awful.
That's hilarious.
So every lecture is just filled with all these bonkers kind of things that the producers are using to see how far they can push them before anyone basically questions it. Next, they're bringing the cadets to try on their spacesuits, which they've gotten from the Russian market. They've told that they need to wear a state-of-the-art insulation suit underneath, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like a white body stocking. It's like $20,000. In reality, it's a white morph suit that they bought from a fetish website for $4.99. They then have them practice kind of very technical stretches wearing these morph suits to kind of help with the kind of body flow and muscle weakness in space. All the stretches are sexual. There's a lot of thrusting. There's a lot of groaning. Nobody questions it. They're all really tuned into helping each other with their technique as well.
I need to see this.
Next, they have them all trying their pressurization suits. In reality, they're just chemical suits that they bought on eBay, which are then fitted with leaf blowers, so they can blow air into it, so they'll kind of blow up like Mr. Blobby, like a marshmallow. And they all have to practice kind of their communication gestures. Things like, my hole is blocked, and then they have to kind of do this gesture where they're kind of like doing a sex gesture.
So this is why they couldn't have anyone that watched Star Trek or whatever, because they'd go, that's not what happens.
Yeah. After this came the vocal communication training, where they had to all practice describing emergencies to the ground control team. So imagine it like this. This is Earth Orbit 1 to Crimps. I see the shuttle does not have a phalange. Like that kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
so they have to practice that. The idea is that the professor will hold up a board with an illustration on it, which they then have to describe to the ground control. So they're like, this is Earth Orbit 1 to Crimps. I see a monkey. And the professor's like, is that it? And she adds, I see a monkey wearing a waistcoat and a fez. And he's like, good. It's really serious.
Well done. Well done.
He also holds up a sign with the words, do not say anything written on it. Charlie just sits there. He doesn't know what to say. And then he realizes, obviously, that that's not right. So he says, this is Earth Orbit 1 to Crimps. I see a lecturer holding a board that says, do not say anything. The lecturer's like, nice. So serious.
What is this testing as well?
Can they see an emergency and can they report it back effectively to ground control, basically?
Right, okay.
This just goes on, and eventually they complete their training, they take their final exam, which is followed up by a graduation ceremony. Everyone is given like a cute little certificate, there's a commemorative badge that goes with it, and they're all like, wow, I bet no one in the world has one of these. In reality, they bought it from a Russian flea market. They tell all the cadets that the final cadets going into space will be selected tomorrow, and the ceremony is then capped off with a poem read out by one of the pilots about courage and endeavor.
Is it in Russian?
It's in Russian, and the reality is that this is just the recipe for Toad in the Hole. All the cadets are really moved.
Amazing.
And so even though no one really calls out any of this bullshit, there are some questions that do spring up. One of them says, I honestly think that this is just a social experiment to see kind of like how we react. But luckily, and this is the purpose of Charlie and Rainey, they make up some bullshit like this is how it's supposed to be, etc.
Yeah, this is how they do it in Russia.
Yeah. But there is one thing that someone says, that there's just no way that you can kind of add a reassurance to it. Because one of them says, I just thought it would be colder in Russia. Like, it just feels like England out there, he says. And so all Rainey can say is like, yeah, I know what you mean, and moves the conversation along.
I think that's the thing. Like, if you like argue that point too much, then it probably stands out more.
Yeah, exactly. But inside, she's like, fuck. The thing is, though, all their senses were telling them that this is real, but subconsciously, their brains were working against them. And this becomes apparent when one of the girls is captured sleep talking, and she goes, "You're not foreign. You're not foreign. You're not foreign." So subconsciously she knew
something is going on. I guess maybe they didn't want to like say anything because, like you say, they go along with the crowd.
Yes.
And maybe they're like, oh well, they didn't know for sure about whether this was fake or real, and they're just there for the experience. They're on TV at the end of the day.
Yes, probably. So they're all kind of like waiting for the final selection to take place. Mm-hmm. They all really want it, Adam. They really want this. Probably one of the most standout moments for me is when Charlie is keen to redeem himself after his awful scratching its shit into the cold sand poem.
Right.
Charlie writes a poem about the Russian billionaire who apparently founded the space program. His name is Sergei Bozvo. I think that's how you pronounce his name. Like, there's a big poster of him in kind of their dorm area. He gathers everyone around to listen, and he goes, "Niet! Niet!" Sergei Bozvos clumps a wizard fist upon the supper table. "Niet! Niet! Niet!" His eyes blaze like Skylab, and his tiny wife wipes pickled cabbage from her face. Sergei speaks. "By the 63 moons of Jupiter, 4 of which were visible by Galileo, it shall never happen." Outside, the Russian greb squawks over the still warm body of its mate. Sergei crosses himself in the manner of a Crimean nun. His tiny old wife cowers behind the cabbage pot. "This, I swear," shrieked Sergei, "that poor French will never go to space."
What?
Paul French is one of the other cadets, and he really, really wants this. But I think he's redeemed himself.
I mean, really?
Thing is, though, if you're not a poet, don't even try. Don't try. Just go like, yeah, I'm not working.
Yeah. I like that he thought this was going to redeem himself as well. It's like he had been so gutted since that moment in time going, I'm not a good actor. I need to prove myself.
So finally they select the final four. They're all like, I hope it's you. But really, they hope it's themselves.
Yeah, of course.
In the end, they select Charlie the actor, 26-year-old plasterer Paul French, so he does get a spot in spite of Charlie's poem, 25-year-old receptionist Kerry, and finally 25-year-old recruitment consultant Billy. Joining them will be two pilots, Alex Hughes and Drew Levy. Also, both of them are actors. And so this is it. Producers now really need to solidify this illusion.
There's the part of me that everyone sees. I'm Howie Mandel, the comedian. Apparently, I know what funny is. Funny bought me a house, but I also know what isn't funny. OCD. I've lived with OCD my entire life, and people throw the term around like it's no big deal. But OCD is severe, often debilitating. It's a mental health condition that involves unrelented, unwanted thoughts that can make you question your character, your beliefs, even your safety. General therapy can help with some things, but for OCD, it can actually make things worse. That's why I want to tell you about NoCD. NoCD is the world's largest treatment provider for OCD and is covered by insurance for over 155 million Americans. Their licensed therapists specialize in ERP, the most effective treatment for OCD. If you think you might be struggling with OCD, go to nocd.com to book a free 15-minute call. They are here to help.
Curious if who you've been talking to online is who they say they are? The Sea of Love is filled with catfish. Make sure one doesn't hook you with lies. If you're trying to confirm the identity of someone you're talking to on dating apps, you need truthfinder.com. With Truthfinder, you can check public records to see if they're being deceitful about their age, identity, past divorces, and more. Make sure you're not wasting your time and energy on a scammer with truthfinder.com/dating today.
This podcast is supported by the original organic bedding and bath brand, Koyuchi.
As soon as I found out we were going to have a baby, I wanted to make sure that whatever we slept on or came into contact with was safe from toxins or anything harmful. So I bought Koyuchi sheets and towels. Koyuchi was exactly what we needed. Not only are they certified organic to the highest standards, they're also just amazing. We have the Koyuchi Organic Crinkled Percale Sheets. They're 100% organic cotton and woven to be naturally cooling, super soft, and breathable. And I honestly just sleep better with them. Of course, now our baby registry has a lot of Koyuchi on it too. Crib sheets, blankets, and a snuggle sack. All the best for him or her. Everything we have from Koyuchi feels good, looks good, and is safe for our whole family.
Get 15% off when you visit Koyuchi.com. That's Koyuchi.com to get 15% off. Koyuchi.com.
They take the finalists to visit ground control, where they are going to meet for the very first time the people that we send them up into space. Again, they're all actors working away in this control room. And when they see it, it now feels real, right? They've gone to the control room. They've seen everyone working away. There's blinking lights everywhere, computers everywhere. They get to meet the chief kind of like control person. And it's really believable.
I guess if there is like 20 or 30 actors in this room or whatever.
Yeah, all working away.
Yeah.
They also, on the way, strategically drive past a hangar where they get a glimpse of the shuttle poking out of the entrance to this hangar, complete with fake smoke, lighting effects. In reality, it's literally just the nose of the shuttle that they made, and there's just nothing behind it. But either way, seeing this just poking out to them is like, okay, this is kind of quashes any lingering doubts that they might have. Next, the producers stage a press conference. There are journalists and photographers from all over the world there to meet them, right? They ask them about their training, how they're feeling. One reporter asked them whether or not they were planning on having sex in space. Kerry says, well, as the only girl, hopefully not. Wrong answer, Kerry! They also asked if any of them have had sex with a sex worker or a member of the EastEnders cast.
Why?
I don't know. That was the same question. Okay. Not separate, the same one. By the end of it, they're all really convinced that they're going to be world famous. They're like, oh my God, I'm going to meet Oprah. I'm going to be friends with Tom Cruise. This solidifies it for them in a big way.
Wow.
On the day of the launch, Adam, they're all transported to the entrance of the shuttle. They basically walk up these ramps through these kind of like tunnels that they've kind of created that lead up to a hatch, which opens up into the shuttle.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a simulator, basically. After they're in, they're all strapped into their seats. This is one of the biggest giveaways that I just don't understand. Because rather than taking off vertically like a rocket, they're all kind of taking their seats horizontally like they're in a car. Nobody explains why, and none of the cadets ever question this at all. So in the shuttle, there are windows at the front of the cockpit. So this is for them to be able to see kind of like space in orbit. But as they're getting ready for the cadets to board the shuttle, a moth is spotted in the studio where the projector is.
Oh no.
And so suddenly there's going to be potentially a 30-foot moth shadow kind of projected across the Sahara.
It's an alien.
Yeah. So they have to improvise, and they say for safety reasons, the shutters have to stay closed during kind of liftoff. Again, no one questions this.
It's like, well, that's not like the movies.
Yeah, it's weird. Finally, everything's ready. The shuttle kind of rumbles to life. The countdown begins. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Are you keeping the suspense? 3, 2, 1. Lift off. Nothing happens.
Okay.
The simulator's hydraulics fail. They stall at that moment in time. The pilots, like, they glance at each other and are like, now what? Then the simulator immediately jolts. It starts to shudder. There's a motion. And then they scramble to go, 3, 2, 1.
Quick, go now.
And it lifts off. No one says a word. The pilots are thinking, whoo, saved it.
Yeah. Part of me wonder how much of these missteps is also planted into the show to create the drama and people watching.
No, this hydraulics failure was definitely a misstep.
And then what about the moth? Because I feel like it wouldn't have looked believable anyway, or maybe it would, but did they use that as an excuse to then not show it?
I think so, because otherwise they're going to have to fake physically lifting off.
Exactly, and that's why I think they always intended to have those things shut.
Yeah, I think so.
See, I would have conned onto this thing way sooner.
But it is wild. They've had a failed launch. If this was real, it would have been, right, everyone off, there's been a malfunction, we'll try again in 3 weeks. Mm-hmm. That's the reality, right?
Yeah.
But no, instead they're just like, oh, it's working now, blast off.
We're fine. Don't worry about it. It's all safe.
I have to say that the launch going up into orbit is very underwhelming. Like the hydraulics, basically all they do is just kind of like shake the shuttle, it's rocking back and forth for a bit. After they get into orbit, the cadets are like, wow, that was really smooth. It was almost like driving a car. And the pilots are like, that's a very big compliment, thank you.
I mean, yeah, go with it. Always say yes, and that's what you have to do, right?
Just magical.
I mean, like, I know they've got this whole excuse for the gravity, but I would have thought they would have expected more G-force.
Exactly. There's no crushing G-force. No sense of being rocketed skyward. It's just meh. But amazingly, they believe it. I don't know if it's everything else around them kind of adding to the context of it all. I don't know.
And also, like, who knows what the movies do to make something look, I don't know, they add sound effects and things that aren't real. So maybe they're like, well, actually, maybe it is a bit more underwhelming than it
possibly
really is.
Yes, yeah. Eventually, the producers, apparently they catch the moth, and now is the time to kind of finally open up the shutters. All the cadets stand by. Basically, there's a cockpit, and then there's like a grated cage wall that prevents them from stepping too close to the windows to be able to then see kind of the surrounding set, basically. The shutters open, and there it is, the Earth. And Adam, it genuinely looks impressive on a 2005 TV screen, basically. The cadets say that it felt really profound. Even Charlie said, like, for a moment, he forgot that this was all fake.
Wow.
So that says to me, this is impressive. Mm-hmm. They spend the next 5 days in the small shuttle. The producers make sure they have a bunch of things to do. But during the downtime, they start obviously having doubts. Mostly they don't feel like they're in space. Remember, there's no gravity there either, right? That's been explained away. So if you were a producer, what would you do at this point to get them back on track?
You distract them with something, right?
You think just distract them?
Yeah, shiny ball.
You need to do something to kind of reassure them that they are in space.
Does something go wrong?
No, much simpler than you think. Basically, they play them a video message from the hosts of This Morning who tell them that everyone is rooting for them and that even the Queen is following their mission. And that's it, Adam. That really affirms to them that they're actually in space. They're like, oh my God, the Queen is watching us.
So all they did was get Richard and Judy on, which it probably was at that point.
I think it was Fern Britton and Philip Schofield at the time.
Oh, okay. Even still, just get those people on. Yeah, I guess, again, there's no reason to doubt that maybe at that point.
Yeah. Mental, isn't it? So on the final day, they're all told that they're actually going to get a chance to do a spacewalk and actually leave the shuttle. In reality, this is actually the big reveal. So they all put on their spacesuits. They enter into this tiny little pod that's kind of supposed to decompressurize them or something or whatever. I don't know. Charlie isn't going with them because technically he is an actor, right? He's not part of this. So the producers, they need an excuse for why he's not joining them. They tell them he's got worms.
Worms?
No, the best excuse they could come up with was that he had worms.
Where would he have got worms from?
I don't know. The cadets, they believe him. In fact, they probably still believe it to this day. They're like, no one lies about worms.
Yeah, Charlie was an actor.
So there's a screen inside the pod. It comes on. It's Johnny Vaughan. He says, they all did really well. And then he plays them their journey so far, as they normally do, like on Big Brother, right? Plays this big montage of all the cadets kind of raising their suspicions throughout the show. The final shot at the end of this montage is a live stream from outside of the simulator.
Really?
And that's when the penny drops for them. Straight away, the pod opens and there they are. They're in the studio. There's all their friends and family waiting for them. Everyone's cheering. And this was probably the most critical moment for the producers because they have no idea how these cadets are going to react. To the point that they even had a doctor and a psychologist standing by just in case any of them couldn't cope and just went on a rampage.
And a security and everything?
Yeah, probably. But in the end, all three of them handle it really well. They are a little bit disappointed. They are embarrassed. The producers were massively relieved, though, because they didn't really want to humiliate anyone. They genuinely wanted them to see kind of the funny side. And I guess, as you said, it's because the premise of the show was different, right? It was about pulling off this hoax, not like creating entertainment. And then during their final interview, they all said that they'd all been really convinced. Like certain aspects did feel a little bit strange, but they didn't really have a frame of reference for them. So it was just really easy for them to kind of just dismiss it. But probably, they said, the most convincing part of it all was that they truly believed that they were in Russia. Because Johnny asked them, like, where are you right now? And they're like, in Russia. And they're like, no, you're in Ipswich. And they're like, what? They just kind of believe it.
I mean, everything up until that point, I guess it was a lot easier to influence them. The space part was always going to be the most difficult.
Yeah, I guess so. And so all 9 of the contestants, even the ones that weren't selected, were told that as a prize, they'd all be given a real trip to actual Russia, where they'd go to visit a real training facility, where they'd all get to experience real weightlessness flights. On top of that, they each get $5,000 as well. The 3 who went into space got an extra £5,000 for each day that they were in the simulator, so they got like $25,000 each.
Oh, wow. So a little bit of prize money, which is good.
Yeah.
And it's interesting. I don't think like this show would have aged well now. Like,
No.
go to Russia. No, thanks.
Yeah, no, definitely not today. And so now it's been like 20 years since all this happened. The Guardian ran a piece to kind of catch up with them all to see kind of how they've all been affected and where they are now. Louise told The Guardian that she was actually really desperate to be chosen. And when she didn't make the final 4, she was absolutely crushed. So it might not have come across that way on television, but she was devastated. She said that she had to take her socks off to wipe her tears from her face.
Oh, God, there's that much, that many tears.
But straight to socks.
Yeah. Not like a sleeve, not get a tissue. She went straight for the socks. That's hilarious. When were the other contestants told then?
So they were told when the others went off to the shuttle. They were all gathered into a room and they were told, like, where do you think you are? They're like, well, Russia. And they're like, no, you're in Ipswich. And I think in hindsight, some of them were like, oh, this didn't make sense, that didn't make sense. But yeah, they largely all believed it. But what made Louise feel better was the idea that the producers were looking for the 4 people who most likely would have been duped by the simulator. So to her, this meant that she was too smart to believe that she was not in space. So that made her feel better.
I mean,
and she's a teacher, by the way.
I mean, I guess that's the thing though, right? The final people had to be the most susceptible.
I guess so. But I thought it was all down to like your training and stuff.
I think there are probably more tests trying to work out who is
But this is how she came to terms with it all,
fine.
basically. The show got a bit of criticism in The Guardian because in those 20 years, reality TV, as we discussed at the top of the show, has come under real scrutiny for its lack of care. The journalist who wrote the article, Laura Martin, wrote, "Yes, there have been crueler TV shows, but there's something about the psychological manipulation concept that doesn't sit right with me. With reality TV finally forced to examine its duty of care in recent years, it's highly unlikely a series would ever be commissioned like this today. And it's still unclear who the series was actually for." Two things. I agree with that. Like, this probably wouldn't be made today just because of the degree and also the stigma that comes with kind of selecting kind of candidates. But also, who was the show for? Like, who was the joke on, right? Was it the contestants? Was it Charlie and the other actors to see if they could kind of like steer people? Or was it on the viewer? Like, it serves you right for watching reality TV, that kind of thing. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's just event TV. Like Channel 4 has done a number of these kind of personal stress tests, all that sort of stuff. There was a thing about people where they weren't allowed to sleep at one point.
Oh, God, yeah.
And so, I don't know, I just feel like in some ways it is a spectacle. It's almost like a big budget spectacle on TV. And I don't know, I don't feel like it had bad intentions, but in hindsight, it's not right.
Yeah.
I mean, now all TV is basically any show where you get to stab someone in the back. That's pretty much like the traitors, which that's kind of
maybe
the
they prove the
right
concept and know what works well.
Yeah.
But this is all probably part of the experimental kind of concept phase of like, well, what makes a good reality TV show? That's why we had such a variety back then.
Yeah.
But now it is, as you said, stabbing people in the back.
Yeah. Which, don't get me wrong, I enjoyed that.
But even Johnny Vaughan, he questioned at one point whether or not the joke was actually on him. All the contestants were all in on it to try and trick him.
I guess, yeah, that's another way of looking at it, right? Like, do you think actually we'd put you as the presenter of a show like this?
Yeah. He said that in the end, there was just something about the show that just didn't sit right with him. He says that he found it quite grubby. And this is actually where he says this was one of the last times that he ever worked in television because of it. He explained that since he started back in 1993, there'd always been kind of a real sense of love for the viewer, but Space Cadets felt like the start of that age of contempt for the audience. He doesn't say he regrets doing it, but he does say that through his involvement, he was able to make the show kinder than what it might have been. Because he says like it was because of him that they all got prize money and they all got kind of an opportunity to actually go to a real training facility.
Oh, really?
The producers didn't want to do that, but he forced them to do it.
That's a really nice thing because almost you do want to reward them. It isn't like, we've fooled you and now go back to the rest of your lives.
Exactly.
I guess then they can at least portray it as a game show in a way.
And there was a bunch of other things that apparently he pushed back on that the producers wanted to do. But he was just adamant that he didn't want any of the contestants to be humiliated or even have their reputations damaged by this. Louise, for example, remember, she's a teacher. And one of the things that she said is that she would do anything as long as it didn't make her look like an idiot in front of her students. And Johnny Vaughan made sure of that.
I think that's a really good thing because we talk about Big Brother where you go on there and you know whatever you do, you know like that's your choice to do some of those things.
Yeah.
You might be provoked or whatever. Here, we don't want to see people arguing or getting into a fight because they're being manipulated deliberately. That is really underhand without them knowing what's going on.
You want to be a good sport about these types of things, right?
Yeah.
Charlie says that after the show, it took him ages to shake off the feeling that he wasn't inside his own Truman Show. He would wake up in the middle of the night and be convinced that there were cameras in the room.
I mean, he's been living this for like weeks, right?
Yeah. Louise said that before the show, she'd always thought that she saw the best in people, but afterwards she started second-guessing everyone, becoming a lot more negative. And she says that was a shame because to her, that was a really nice quality to have in her personality. So, yeah, that is genuinely sad, I guess. Like, it did negatively affect her, especially after all these years. She looks back on it not too fondly, but not with contempt or hate or regret. But, yeah, it did affect her because this is a big thing, being told you're going to go to space, right? She also said that she was grateful that it all happened in 2005, just before the rise of social media. Because of that, the world just quickly forgot about this until now, because in the last couple of years, it's been posted onto YouTube.
Yeah, because you can go back to your normal life and not be, I don't know, hassled and get like people death threats in your DMs because you're so stupid. How did you not see that, you stupid bitch?
Exactly. Well, I mean, hopefully no one calls her a bitch.
No, but that's the kind of hate mail people get for going on these shows. That wasn't me saying that she was that, but...
True. And Adam, that is the story of Space Cadets, the British space program that sent 4 lucky civilians into a space simulator.
Wow. I really don't remember that at all. But maybe if I watched the show, it would jog my memory.
It feels very familiar to Big Brother.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the studio setting, outside, kind of they record at the barracks. They have to whisper because they're just behind that wall. Someone's in the toilet. They're like, oh, you got to be quiet.
Yeah. I mean, did any other country try and do something like this?
I've no idea, actually. I didn't check.
It feels like it's one of those things that they would end up selling to other countries, but then actually
But it's 5 million, right?
Yeah.
It's expensive.
Yeah.
So if you guys want to watch the action firsthand, all 10 episodes are available on YouTube, and I definitely think it's worth the watch.
Mm-hmm.
Even if, just to see how elaborate the setup was, if you don't have much time, just commit to the first episode. That's where a lot of the action happens, about the setup and how they fooled them. By far, the most impressive part, though, is the process of building the base in Suffolk and the lengths that they went to make it convincing, like replacing the plug outlets, but also how resourceful they had to be. There's definitely a sense of it being a heist movie, 100%.
Wow.
I have to kind of get everything set up and like rub this down and like install this and quick put a desk in here. It just felt like a heist movie.
Imagine putting the actual people and potentially whether it's actually ethical or not, that issue to aside, to actually work on this as a production must have been really fun and creative and trying to think, how are we going to make this look realistic? That's what's quite impressive, I think, about this.
And I think because of that effort, this is what gives you the willingness from the contestants to believe. I think if any of them hadn't wanted to believe, I think they would have foiled this, right? Hence why they put so much effort into the psychological kind of testing and evaluations and stuff in the selection process. But with the prospect of going into space, you sort of want it to be true as well. Do you know what I mean? Because remember, none of them found out that they were going to space until they were on that tarmac. I think once you've been given that prospect, you want it to be real because that's like the ultimate prize. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it is just one of those shows that hits the perfect spot between absurdity and funniness.
Yeah.
It's done really well. And I know it's gotten a lot of shit over the years in the fallout of reality TV as a genre. But after watching this, I honestly don't think that any of the contestants have anything to feel embarrassed or ashamed about. This show is definitely tender compared to kind of what came afterward, especially in like the later series of Big Brother, where they literally go out to instigate full out arguments and assaults. And
exactly. Like they spent £5 million on trying to fool people, and they did fool people. And so that's a huge, elaborate stunt. So I don't think people should feel bad. They shouldn't feel bad at all.
And nobody looked terrible in that.
Hopefully people take it in the good faith that maybe it was supposed to be done.
Yeah. I like the touch that your family members were involved as well, should this person go in. And I think that softens the blow a lot, because when you find out that it's not real and you find out, well, actually, my mum gave them the all clear, that would make me feel better. She believed I can handle this, I can handle this.
Yeah, again, it's done with good intent. Hopefully.
Unless your mum's a bitch.
In which case, she is not getting a Christmas present.
So yeah, any last words? Should we run the outro for this week?
Let's run the outro.
And that brings us to the end of another fascinating foray into the compendium and assembly of fascinating things. We hope you enjoyed the ride as much as we did.
And if today's episode sparks your curiosity, then please do us a favor and follow us on your favorite podcast app. It truly makes a world of difference and helps more people like you discover the show.
And for our dedicated freaks out there, don't forget that next week's episode is already waiting for you on our Patreon. And as always, it is free to access.
And if you want even more, then join our Certified Freaks tier to unlock the entire archive, delve into exclusive content, and get a sneak peek at what's coming next.
We drop new episodes every Tuesday. And until then, remember, the easiest illusions to believe are the ones we desperately want to be true. See you next time.
See ya.
Think you found the one, but something feels off? If you've met someone online who seems too good to be true, they probably are. Before you fall for flirty texts and stolen profile photos, use truthfinder.com to run a background check. Find out if they're really a Nigerian prince, a hot co-ed, Mr. Perfect, or a total fraud within seconds. Use a name, email, or phone number to search for anyone to verify age, criminal and traffic info, and much more. Go to truthfinder.com/dating today to uncover who they really are.
At Capella University, learning online doesn't mean learning alone. You'll get support from people who care about your success, like your enrollment specialist, who gets to know you and the goals you'd like to achieve. You'll also get a designated academic coach who's with you throughout your entire program. Plus, career coaches are available to help you navigate your professional goals. A different future is closer than you think with Capella University. Learn more at capella.edu.
Hey everybody, it's Babs. You know, one thing that makes the holiday season so magical is the traditions we share year after year. And that's why I'm so excited to tell you about Birch Lane. Their classic furniture and festive decor is carefully crafted to bring joy to every seasonal celebration. Plus, it's delivered fast and free, so you can start spreading the holiday cheer. Shop my hand-picked Birch Lane collection and more classic styles at birchlane.com.
Oh, the car from Carvana's here. Well, will you look at that? It's exactly what I ordered, like, precisely. It would be crazy if there were any catches, but there aren't, right?
Right, because that's how car buying should be. With Carvana, you get the car you want. Choose delivery or pickup, and a week to love it or return it.
Buy your car today with
Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.